can get them signed after. Oh, now that the mic's on. Thank you. I was just saying we'll get started in a couple minutes, and author Fuller will sign the books after if you don't get it signed before. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. If everybody could please take their seats, we're going to get started. We're going to give everybody a couple seconds to get seated. And before we get started, I want to thank Rise Interpreting for having 3 interpreters here today to help make all of this possible for us. We're really excited. I'll have the players and everybody come up to the panel right after we speak with Thomas, and he does his author talk. Okay, welcome everyone to the Kickoff for Riverside Reads 2025. This year our title is The Boys of Riverside, a Deaf Football Team and a Quest for Glory by Thomas Fuller. This book is especially meaningful to all of us as it takes place right here in Riverside and draws on the story of the various players and coaches associated with the California School for the Deaf Riverside football team. As we begin, I'd like to recognize we have our mayor and city council member Hemingway for Ward 4 here, so thank you both for attending. And a little bit about Riverside Reads. This is an annual program hosted by the Riverside Public Library to encourage the entire city to read and discuss the same book in an effort to foster conversation, connection, and community. This program series is generously funded by the Riverside Public Library Foundation and the Friends of the Riverside Public Library. Today is the kickoff of our program series, which will also include 5 booked discussions, 4 additional special events in partnership with the California School for the Deaf Riverside to be held over the next month. And to ensure access at all programs, they will have ASL interpreters available. And today we're in for a real treat. We'll have Thomas Fuller give us a book discussion about his wonderful book, and then we'll have the players, coaches, and the author available for a panel discussion. So everybody, please start thinking about those questions. And at the end of the presentations, we'll have an opportunity to have Thomas sign books. And now, to get things started, I would like to welcome our Mayor, Locke Dawson, to introduce our author.
Hi. Hello. Good to see you all here today. Well, welcome to the kickoff of Riverside Reads 2025. I have the honor and pleasure of introducing our special guest, Thomas Fuller. He's standing right over there. He's kind of a big deal. He's a page 1 correspondent for the New York Times and is based in Northern California with his wife and 2 children. He's the author of this year's book, The Boys of Riverside, a Deaf Football Team and a Quest for Glory, which highlights our very own champion Cubs from the California School for the Deaf. The backstory to this book is just incredible. In November, and it's not a spoiler alert because I think you all know what happened, but I'm just going to recap it just a little bit. But in November of 2021, an obscure email from the California Department of Education landed in the inbox of Mr. Fuller. The football team at the California School for the Deaf in Riverside was having an historic season. After years of covering foreign wars, domestic wildfires, and the pandemic for the Times, Mr. Fuller was captured by the story of this group of boys who had gone from being perpetual underdogs to dreaming of becoming champions. And I think we're at are we three-peat now, right? Three-peat. Three-peat, yes, I know. Three-peat. So, spending the better part of 2 seasons with the student athletes, right? You followed them. Mr. Fuller unearthed the remarkable stories of these players, their families, and their charismatic head coach behind this engine of this engine of a team and former deaf athlete himself. As this year's choice, the Boys of Riverside invites readers on a journey revealing a poignant look at deaf culture in America. Mr. Fuller contrasts how deafness is perceived by the hearing world against the actual experience of living and thriving within a unique community. This book also explores unbreakable chemistry and common purpose. A riveting sports story, and most importantly, an inspiring human narrative. It's truly incredible to know that such a fascinating book and its origins can be traced right back here and to an obscure email. And with that, without further ado, I want to thank and welcome up to the podium Mr. Thomas Fuller. Thank you for being here. And my apologies if you can't tell, I'm getting over a cold. So, Mr. Fuller, thank you for being here this afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me here. I drove down yesterday from my home in the Bay Area, the 7-hour drive that I have come to know very well because I did it for the entire time that I was reporting the book. We are gathered here to discuss this book. It's a story about a remarkable group of kids and the coaches who guided them. It's a story about the nuances of the notion of disability. It's a story about a team that uses deafness as a superpower, as an edge. The story raises the question, what's the meaning of disability if you can use that disability to triumph over your opponents? This is an uplifting story. It's an apolitical story. Not once during the course of my reporting did the word Democrat or Republican ever come up. And I was very happy for that. And of course, it's an inspiring story. There is a place in America for stories that tell us about ourselves as Americans without the noise and chaos of the current moment. And I say that as someone who writes a lot about the noise and chaos of the current moment. Here I want to pause and talk about that idea, the role of books and stories and how they relate to our health and our well-being. I moved to California 9 years ago to be the San Francisco bureau chief for the New York Times. Before that, I lived overseas for 26 years. When I left America, Ronald Reagan was president. When I came back, Barack Obama was president. I was the Southeast Asia correspondent before I came here. It was a wonderful but a very challenging job. I covered a string of military coups, of natural disasters, of civil wars. I interviewed a rogue general. He was shot and killed as I was talking to him. I wrote about plane crashes. I wrote about poverty. It was a tough job. At one point, after a particularly long and difficult stretch, I found it difficult to think clearly. I was exhausted. I felt like I had lost the ability to be creative in my thinking and in my writing. And that's a problem for someone whose job depends on it. A friend recommended some medicine, a drug, I guess you could call it. But it wasn't the kind that you buy in the pharmacy. It went by the name of Anton Chekhov. I picked up a book of the Russian writer's short stories. It was the break from reality that I needed. Chekhov has been dead for more than 100 years, but he helped restore my creative energy. Thank you, Anton. This is why we are here today, to celebrate reading. It's therapy without the bill at the end of the month. In 2013, the journal Science published an article about the effects of reading literary fiction. People who read literary fiction performed, quote, better on tests measuring empathy, social perception, and emotional intelligence. The New York Times, my newspaper, noted that these are, quote, skills that come in especially handy when you are trying to read someone's body language or gauge what they might be thinking. Today, fiction, and I hope nonfiction books, are the armor from the barrage of news stories that assault us every day. And again, I say this as a reporter who writes those stories. But there's another reason why reading is so crucial, one that I discovered while researching the Boys of Riverside. It's the importance of language, more specifically, to the thinking process. When someone is born profoundly deaf, it's an emergency because that infant needs access to language. For many deaf children, it means learning American Sign Language, ASL. It could also mean learning English. It doesn't matter. You just need language. And ASL is a language like every other. Studies have shown that without language, children cannot develop the ability to think clearly. They become, in the most severe cases, mentally handicapped. They have trouble with chronology, with logic. The development of language is absolutely crucial for us all. This brings me back to the Boys of Riverside. As those of you who have read the book know, American Sign Language was looked down upon by educators for many, many decades. In 1880, there was a conference in Milan, in Europe, and Alexander Graham Bell, who we know from his work developing the telephone, recommended that deaf children not sign, that American Sign Language and all sign languages be banned from schools. That devastating decision endured for many decades. One of the coaches on the Cubs here in Riverside was punished for using ASL. Ken Watson, every time he used ASL with his classmates, was told to write, "I will not use ASL," hundreds of times on the blackboard. Today, we know that ASL is just like any other language. It has all the complexities, sophistication, and nuances of spoken languages. And in the case of the Cubs, which we can talk about later, ASL was even more than that. It was their superpower. It was their weapon. My son plays football in our public school in Northern California. And between every play, the quarterback of the team runs to the sidelines, gets the next play from the coach, runs back into the huddle, relays the play to the rest of the team, and they're able to run the next play. The Cubs, if you've ever seen one of their games, have a terrific shortcut. Coach Adams, whom we'll hear from later, signs to his players from the sidelines. It makes games run fast. You can imagine the coach on the sidelines and the players lined up. All they do is they look over, they get the next play, and they run it. It throws off their opponents. That's something that I witnessed at every game that I saw. I think ASL was a crucial reason why the pride of Riverside, the CSDR Cubs, have won the championship not once, not twice, but 3 years in a row. To report the book, I became a resident of Riverside. My roommate, Teresa Maxwell, is in the room today. Thank you, Teresa, for offering me your spare bedroom. I cherished my walks along the Gage Canal, my breakfasts at Simple Simon's, my trip to the fruit stand on the edge of the orange groves where I got my bottles of freshly squeezed. I went back this morning and I got another bottle of freshly squeezed just for old time's sake. I hiked up Mount Rubidoux countless times, and my hearing friends made fun of me when I pronounced it the French way, Mount Rubidoux. But I laughed with my deaf friends when they told me they couldn't care less how I pronounced it, just as long as I signed it correctly. I'm delighted that we're here to discuss the Boys of Riverside. I'm thrilled that we have Keith Adams, that we have Kaveh Angorani, that we have Galvin Drake, 3 of the coaches, and that we have 2 team members here as well. I'm very grateful that Riverside has gathered us all together to celebrate deaf culture, deaf pride, and the championship team that made it all possible. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to call the other panelists on up to the stage. And thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing all about your experiences in Riverside and about writing the book. Come on up. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Okay, so we'll get started. So to start our panel discussion, I would love it if everybody up here would introduce themselves so everybody in the audience knows who we're talking with today.
I have pressed the button. Can you hear me now? Okay. I've already introduced myself, but I will tell you a story about microphones and the Boys of Riverside, which is this. When they played in the first championship, there was a reporting team there who came up to the superintendent of CSDR and, microphone in hand, said, "Tell us how you're feeling right now," and put the microphone right in her face. And she looked at the reporter and she said, "I don't think I need that." And I thought that was a very nice way of handling it.
Hello, I'm Keith Adams, head coach for the football team. Hello, my name is Xavier Gamboa. Let me take off my rings. I played for the football team, special teams at Riverside. Hello, my name is Andrew Ruiz. Hello, I'm Kava Angorni, defensive coordinator, coach. Hello, I'm Galvin Drake, specials offense coordinator.
Awesome. So to get started, I was talking to Xavier a little bit earlier before we got started, and I said, you've won you've been to the championship game 4 times, you've won 3 championships, and you have 2 undefeated seasons. So, first of all, that is amazing, and I think we need to give that a huge round of applause.
Thank you, thank you.
But to Xavier and to Andrew, my first question is, tell us about this amazing experience. I mean, you guys have been playing on a virtually winning team the entire time you guys have been in high school, and we'd just love to learn all about that experience from your perspective.
Who wants to go first?
You guys can pick.
All right. Well, first, I started off in middle school. That was my first time playing football in the 7th grade. And I had played from there. And I, just looking back on that, playing through high school and getting the experience and just the motivation to play. And, I was on defense. And to get with the other players on there as a freshman, I wasn't really used to that. I'm used to, it was like a big change for me. Yeah, and because I was like beyond the line, I'm playing with other players, and the first time, watching them play together and really getting an understanding to improve on my game and just my personal motivation to get best at my position. And then getting into the line there and playing with everyone, left guard. It was just a big challenge, and I was like thrown off by that, and I just had to take a break from that with the game and really learn my lessons on how to get into that in the high school and be prepared for that. And so then now, going from there to the championship game, it was just really exciting to see the change and the growth in that. And yeah, it's just a lot of emotions that came out of that. And just looking back, it was just nonstop, with losing the championship game and then coming back to win. It's just us ups and downs, and, we're just going through those range of emotions and experiencing that, and not giving up, and really just working hard to improve myself and get better, and to make sure that we're continuing to get that into when I was ready to get there, my sophomore year and then junior year, and just to see the improvement that we had, and I was able to get in there with the team and really have those discussions and open communication. That was really important. And as we talked about that with, be able to sign and see with the other players, the teams can't do that. That's the special thing that we have, and we have the results that showed for it. And, being on the guard and, really having that opportunity to work with the team and celebrate is really happy and excited for that. Starting freshman year, then sophomore year when we won, and then continuing to win from there on, now 3 times against Splitwich Prep. We beat them after losing to them that first year to get to the championship game. So that was nice to be able to have that. And then, noticing, just the improvements that the teams have all made. And so that we take that seriously for sure. And, that's not something that's taken lightly, that we know that's going to happen. And that's just something we have to work on. And it's really inspiring to see that and have that to go on. And really, I was just working up to get that championship and just the work that came with it. And, just what's happening before and, was just playing and everything. And then the championship game after that, it's kind of like a letdown after that. But that's where we go from. And, you just have to keep your head up and keep working on that and continue getting better. And we're not finished. It's unfinished business. You got to keep finishing and to get our finish. And we finally did. And that's what we got it. And we put our heart and soul into that. And we can celebrate and we will win that. And with no failure in it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yep, Andrew here with my experience starting freshman, playing other sports. So really, basketball, started with that and didn't really do a whole lot, but then I went to football. And freshman year, played football, wasn't a starter, but I worked my way up to get onto the team with the practice and continue getting better. I played a little bit, but I just got the experience I needed the next 3 years to get on to my senior year. But really, it was just, I think the second or third game when I got into that and was really able to become the player that I needed to do and get the experience to make the plays. And being a center, you're spiking, you're throwing the ball, and you're constantly in the action, and you're starting the plays. And it's just really becoming, just the first experience was being in there in the championship game and playing. And, I was nervous, of course, to that, but it was exciting at the same time. And so, yeah, it was just, be able to play and get in there and, be able to win. That was my first experience. It was so exciting to be able to show for that. We did lose a couple times, right? I don't think sophomore year we lost? No. Did we have a loss? Okay, yeah, we had one loss that year. But then to go undefeated the other years in the championship game, and just, yeah, it was very exciting. And it was a wonderful experience from starting from that from my junior year until that in senior year and playing. And it was just a great experience overall. And it was just very good, to go the whole way. And, have that experience for me and to play on the team. And, yep, I'll have one more year left. I hope to get our 4th championship. Yeah, that's what I do, 4-peat. That's the goal for senior year.
We hope you get a 4th championship, too.
So, yeah, that's it. Yes, that's right, for sure. That's the goal. Yeah, and, it's just been a great experience for me. I really love it. And I just really appreciate my team and being part of the team and the support that comes with the team. Yeah, we all make mistakes, and, we're not perfect, but we're to support each other. And we know that we're here to support each other. And as whatever we need, we're here for our teammates. That's our goal. It's a shared experience, and we work together as a team.
I wanted
to add something here. With our results, we talked about winning the championships. But yeah, we did have some struggles along the way, but yeah, we ended up winning. That's what's important.
I wanted to add something that Andrew reminded me of, which is the word that came back to me again and again when I was on the sidelines every day watching these guys coach and play, and that was brotherhood. They had a brotherhood that was so crucial to not only their success, but their happiness. And they didn't have that when they were in other schools, surrounded by hearing people. And that really struck me, that it was this togetherness, this sense of community that really helped them thrive and also be happy.
So going off of that a little bit, coaches, how did you adapt your coaching style to leverage the strength, this brotherhood, while also fostering that unity and resilience within the team? Because I think it does take coaches to help make that brotherhood, cement that brotherhood in a team. So, especially Coach Adams, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, it really starts with camp. That's the most important, to start off the season right. We have the football camp. No schools hasn't started yet. We're just, sleeping, and doing all-day football. And that's how we start that, to get the activities and get the brotherhood and to get everyone on the team and help them to coordinate and, build up that rapport and that unity and to get that strength together. Cabal, I also say, if someone is hurt, we help. We're here, there. If they're upset, we're there for them. We go in the cafeteria. We all eat together at lunch as a team. Before games, we eat together as a team. We're really building up that camaraderie and that support, and that really helps it for the best.
I'd like to give a fuller introduction for Cave. You just heard him communicate about teamwork, etc. But many of you might not know the incredible path that Cave had in coming here today. And when I say that, I mean life path. Riverside, like all of California, is an immigrant community, right? Well, listen to this immigrant story. Cave was born in Tehran. His mother was very worried because in Iran, for a deaf child, things are not as easy as they might be here, and they're not easy here either. So his mother found a way to get Cave to go to the Hartford School for Deaf Students. And that's the first school in America founded by a Frenchman who came over and brought sign language, American Sign Language, created American Sign Language, and Cave graduated from that school. But he is a football lover and a football coach. In Tehran, there was no American football. He was playing soccer on the streets. The first time he saw football, an American football, he said, "What is this thing? What is this weird-shaped ball?" And it was because his neighbor was an American who had just moved from the States, and Cave was intrigued. And here we are today in Riverside. He's gone from the streets of Tehran playing soccer to now a coach at the California School for the Deaf Riverside. I think it's a championship coach. I think it's just an incredible story about what makes our country special.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for that.
So, Coach Adams, what brought you to CSDR to coach?
I worked as a teacher, and before for Fremont for 4 years. Just the cost of living there was a little too much, so moved here to Riverside. And I think here 23 years now I've lived here. So for Fremont, teaching for 4 years, and then 23 years, so 27 years I've taught total at both Fremont School for the Deaf and here at Riverside School for the Deaf.
I'm going to keep on interrupting because I have so many stories I want to tell, but I'm going to embarrass you, Coach, because I'm going to tell
That's fine.
A couple stories. One of them that I think will be maybe more interesting to the hearing people in the audience, but we'll see. When Keith was a boy, he learned to read English English is his second language, right? ASL is his first language. And so he learned to read English on the couch with his mom, who had learned ASL, and they would read books slowly, and if Keith had any questions, he would sign the questions to his mom. And they read a book that talked about the wind rustling the leaves on trees. And Keith said, rustling. What does that mean? What is the wind is rustling? I don't understand. And so his mother said, well, when the wind blows through a tree, you can hear a sound. There's a sound that the leaves make when they touch each other. And so Keith said, oh, that's interesting. So what sound does sunshine make? I thought that was a terrific story. The other story I'll tell you, I will tell to embarrass you, Coach, is that you went to the California School for the Deaf in Fremont, where you met your future wife. And if I have the story right, you, who were 250 pounds in high school, met your wife in a production of The Nutcracker. And
That's right.
I have never been able to imagine Plum Fairies and Keith Adams on the same stage. And Carol, Keith's wife, is one of the most faithful fans of CSDR, the CSDR Cubs. So those were two stories about Keith that were irresistible. I have one about Galvin Drake as well, because I would love to embarrass every single coach on this stage. And when I met
Go ahead.
Galvin, I heard Galvin before I saw Galvin, because in the summertime, Galvin likes to drive around with his windows down, blasting music, and really to the point where it sort of shakes you when the car drives by. And Galvin he enjoyed that because he sort of felt the music, and I asked him, I said, well, what do you do, when you're driving through neighborhoods at night? People might be sleeping, hearing people, might be, kind of disturbed by that. And he said, oh, no, don't worry about it. I know I need to turn it down, after dark. So the next time you see a car driving through Riverside really blasting out the Daft Punk, that's Galvin.
Let me add to that. Yeah, I've been in his car before, and he's still blasting that loud music. Yep, to this day.
Do any of you guys have great stories about Thomas to share now? A little bit. Oh, I can see. There's some thoughts happening. Okay. So for everybody up here, when did you know you were into something extraordinary? When did you realize this was not your average high school football team experience?
Okay. Just reading the book, that first game, wow, yeah, that was really good. It's going down to the fifth game. We were on a streak there, and I knew at that time, after getting there, that we had something special going on after that fifth game. Yeah, Galvin here to add on to that. Yeah, I'd say for 9 years we'd had a different groups of players coming through, and that group of players that we started with, we had about 30 of them, and those players arrived early. They'd always be there early, 15 minutes early before practice. And before, we noticed, okay, yeah, these players are really showing a love of football, a real passion. Every Monday we'd have our team film study session, and some kids who weren't interested in that, but this group was always thrilled, excited. They were invested, the front of the class, to listen, to learn, to improve themselves. And that's when I knew that we had a special group of guys. Xavier here, yeah. I just, like I said, like you talked about on Mondays with the film studies and the sessions there, and we just all looked to see how we could be the best players we could be and how we could improve, and also focusing our schoolwork as well and supporting each other in our studies. And that was always important, that we worked together and that we came in ready, and we went into the gym and we got our workouts done and really just worked out together, and we had that bond, and that I felt like we were just trying, just to be the best we could be. And, sometimes we would just push each other to do as hard as we could, and, to get our personal best as a team, and to make sure that we're all just, studying hard and practicing hard and playing hard. And we would make mistakes, of course, but we'd always improve from those mistakes and, know what we're doing the next time to do better. And then once you know better, you can do better.
For the benefit, I think, for the hearing people in the room, I think I can add to what made the magic of the Cubs and what made them so competitive. A few things come to mind, and one in particular, Xavier, when I heard you just talking. When you have a group of signers together, when you had Keith signing to his players, there's a bond that happens that is almost dictated by deafness, dictated by ASL, because everyone knows that teenagers go through a phase where they kind of grunt and don't really look you in the eye, and sort of an antisocial phase. Maybe they're not really that interested in talking with their parents or their teachers. But in the deaf world, you have to be locked in. You have to be eye to eye. And I think that was an important part of why this team cohered so well. And maybe it's not something that you guys really thought of that much because it's your everyday, but it's something that I witnessed there, that when Keith or Cave or Galvin was talking to the team was locked in. The team was locked in into what they were saying. And I thought that was something that you might not see on a hearing team. Now, there's another aspect of sight and that feeling of being locked in that also might not be super obvious to you, but it's the fact that you need visual synchronicity when you are a deaf football team. You need to be all locked in visually. And that is a great attribute for a football team. That means you don't jump off sides because you don't move before the ball moves. You move together as a team, and we know from scientific studies that if you are born profoundly deaf, it is a gift for your eyesight. You have better visual acuity. You have better peripheral vision than someone, on average, than someone who is hearing. So all of those things together, I think, contributed to the excellence of the Cubs. And in society, we think about deafness as a disability and maybe as something you might have to overcome. This is exactly the opposite of that. This is, as someone put it, deaf gain. These are the things that deafness gives you.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question before I turn it over to the audience. So, and this is for each of you. How do you hope this book will impact readers and members of the non-deaf community, especially those unfamiliar with the deaf culture and or high school sports in general?
I think this book is perfect balance of football and deaf culture. It's a great balance. I think it's just a way to educate the hearing community. A lot of people are clueless about deafness and signing and ASL and culture and what it means to identify as being deaf. And this book really has that balance that shows what the football culture is as well as being deaf. And I thought you did a great job writing that.
He paid him to say that.
Cave here. Oh, Xavier. Yeah, I think the book was a perfect blend here of just showing what it is to be deaf and what it means there to play football and, have that challenge, overcome that, but being deaf and have the deaf gain and understanding that, it's a disability, but then we overcome that, but at the same time, it's just really, we use our visual, right? That's how we learn. That's how we communicate, and it's just a great way of showing that. And everything that was written in there, I thought, was just showing how the education works and how the stories unfold for deaf people in our society. And Cave here, just to add that to the book, I think it really is impactful. I think it's different from what we see from the hearing people, and it's now from a deaf perspective to get an understanding of deaf culture, our language, and a society as well. And I think it helps recognize the deaf community for the better, and I want to thank you for that.
I do want to point out...
Yes, sorry, here, Galvin. But here we in the deaf, we are human. We're all the same. As you look at us, just as we are, they say, oh, you're disabled, oh, poor you, poor that, everything. No, we're the same. We have a different language, and, we have a deaf gain is what we talk about. And really, it's important to educate the hearing community as a whole.
I do want to point out that when Xavier was talking about the book, he and other students at CSDR read the book under duress. It was assigned to them. So my apologies.
Andrew, any thoughts?
Yeah, what you had just mentioned about this book, I really think it's important for everyone to understand that we're just like regular people. We're deaf, but, we have our history, we have our culture, our identity, but just who we are. And, it's just like we are at a hearing school. We are the same as the deaf school.
Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to the audience to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. We have a microphone that one of our staff members will be bringing it over to them. And we'll give a second for the interpreters to switch around real quick. You can sign it. Of course, you can sign if you'd like. Sounds good. Thank you.
Anyway, I wanted to ask about their experiences on a ship for the first time, second, third time, going to Catalina Island, playing football. It must have been wonderful. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So he's asking about their trips to Catalina Island to play football. What was it like?
Can I start us out, and then you guys can add? I was on the ferry from Long Beach to Catalina Island with the team, and you can imagine all these kids in their jerseys getting on the ferry and people kind of wondering where they were going. And at some point, the ferry picks up speed, and it gets quite loud. And the wind is loud, the engine is loud. And so I was with an interpreter from the school, and being the reporter that I am, I really wanted to do some interviews on this boat. And so I was yelling my questions to the interpreter, and the interpreter was easily interpreting them. And then someone who works for the team came up to me and said, "Don't you wish you were deaf?"
Xavier, Andrew, what was it like?
This is Andrew. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, tiring. I was excited to be on the boat, and yeah, we were watching the waves while we were on our way. And when we got there, oh, it was beautiful. It was just beautiful to see the beach and the waves. And then it was a really long hike to get to where we had to go, but we got there and we were just exhausted. But it was a good experience for me, yeah. It's Kava. It was an amazing trip for us. We just got on the bus, and it was our first cruise type of an experience. And when we got there, we were expecting the other school to provide a bus, and help us with our football gear, but there was nothing. So we had to hike our way up from the ferry to the school, and it's uphill with all our luggage and our gear. Oh my gosh, it was just, it was an exhausting experience. So, yeah, we were worn out before the game even started. And so when we finally got there, we changed into all our gear and got ready and everything. But that game, whew, we had to, catch up because we had been doing so much work, but we finally got the win in the end, and it was a pretty big experience for us. And this is Keith. Yeah, I just wanted to add, we were all hurrying to get back to the ferry, so after the game, we were all rushing, and we were already exhausted from playing a hard game and the walk up the hill, and then the people that live there have golf carts, and they were, busting us down in their little golf carts to get to the ferry on time so that we could make it back to Long Beach. Whew. Oh, and to add that morning we left, I think 11:15. We didn't get back till 1 or 2 in the morning, so we were just exhausted. And then the next week we had another game, and so it was just, we were worn out.
That, by the way, is the strategy of that's the strategy of the team, the Avalon Lancers, Santa Catalina Island. They hope that you get very sick on the ferry ride over.
I was thinking that myself.
Yeah, with Avalon, that was an experience. That was a really competitive game, and it was a lot of hard work, and we were fighting our way through, and we expected to win, and we needed to, it was an exhausting game, an exhausting day, and the ferry ride there with I took a nap on the ferry, and it was a new experience. It was pretty small and cramped, and it's hard to get comfortable, and we were just all exhausted at the end of the day with all the walking, and I only had one bag of gear, but we still had to carry up and down the hill, and it was just a sweaty day. And so and then when we finally had the comeback for the win, it was just we were just even more exhausted than we had been before the game. So, and then to walk all the way down, again, it happened with my freshman year as well, and my sophomore year, we didn't have a game with them. My junior year, we did the ferry again, but we didn't have to do the ferry again. They came to us, and they were on our home turf, so that was a good experience for us. And then, junior year they came to us, and I remember, junior year they beat us, so that was a little unfortunate. But senior year we took our revenge, and we were pretty aggressive, and we just knocked them down, and we really showed how much we'd improved, and that was really impressive. It was exhausting, but I'm excited for them to come to us again.
Yes, we have a question up here in the front. She's going to bring you the microphone.
How did you work up to a good team?
Say one more time, into the microphone.
How did you work up to a good team?
How did you work up to become such a good team?
Oh, how did you become such a good team? And I know that's one of our players' younger brothers, so maybe he'd like to take the answer first.
That's my brother. This is Xavier. That's my brother, and we really just improved our skills. We needed to stay competitive, stay focused, keep working in the gym, not worry about other distractions, and just really focus on our progress and improvement as a team. Communication was huge. We always had to communicate what we were doing, who was going where, what play we were running, who was going to run what. And the team really worked on that. And as Coach Adams would observe, he would remind us what to do, and then we could make changes. And we would see the defense, and we would watch the film studies, and again, that would help remind us what to do and where we could improve. And when, we would go through line on defense, everyone could see how hard we were working and how competitive we were being during those games. They just didn't see during practice everything we were putting into it, all of our blood, sweat, and tears, and overtime, running back and forth, and breathing heavy, and just, the experience. We really got used to putting all of our heart into those games and working as hard as we could as a team and as a group. We have different groups. We have groups A, B, and C that would rotate, and in each group you would work out what you would need to improve on, what technicalities needed to be adjusted, and then you would switch to the next group. For center, you would work on what to do with that group, and it was an everyday thing. So that's where we noticed our improvements. And this is Keith Adams. To add to that, in 9 years, this is the first where we've just been super competitive, and there was no complaints from the team. It was high standards were set, and everybody wanted more, and everybody put in all of their heart. So it was just one hell of a year that we were being competitive. And practice, they would listen, they would show up and listen, and they'd say, okay, what do we need to do, coach? And they would know exactly what to do, and it was just easy to see, you know, like 2 or 3 years we would see that transition. And this is Galvin saying, to add to that, you know, they started young, they joined football young, and, you know, some of the good boys were joining really young, and they were practicing really hard, and they were just gaining that experience and understanding of football as a whole. And then during practice, they would build their skills and improve, and then they would never give up. They put their heart into it 110%, even in the gym during practice. And, you know, you could tell they had that hunger, they had that heart. And so that was really how we arrived to the championship goal that we wanted. You know, it was just definitely out of this. And this is Xavier. Yeah, after practice, we would plan for the week, you know, that game for the week. We would plan ideas and, you know, we would post them and figure out how we could beat them, and they figure out the games and what we needed to do. And if, you know, somebody was mad or upset, we would go in and, you know, we would count 1, 2, 3 over. And that's how we got the championship.
I have a question.
Oh, 1 second. And then I still have
After you're done, Andrew, I have a question. Go ahead.
And we just have that mindset, that attitude, that goal of, you know, team development and team improvement. And that was just really easy.
I have a question for the team. When I remember walking into Blaze Pizzeria, just down the road, before a game, and the woman who was working behind the counter was very clever, because those of you who've been to Blaze Pizzeria know that you walk in, you wait online, and they ask you your name for your order, and then they write it down along the assembly line of the pizza making. Well, she saw that this was a deaf team in their jerseys that were coming in, and so very cleverly, she didn't ask anyone's name. There wasn't any awkward communication moment. She just wrote down the number on each jersey and brought it down the line, and then when the pizza was ready, they just had that number was called. But my question for you all is, what would you like to see in the Riverside community, which is very welcoming for deaf students? I see it when you walk into restaurants. They're used to having deaf customers. They'll quickly take out their phone if it's a hearing person, and they'll you know, communicate that way. But what would you like to see that you don't see now improve in terms of communication between the deaf community and the hearing community in Riverside?
Kava said, I notice here in Riverside there's a few people or restaurants that do sign, and I think that's amazing. When I'm able to communicate, it feels so much better, so much faster than using a phone, pulling it out. It's kind of a long, tedious process, but I do notice that there's many college students. Colleges are providing ASL classes, and more students are taking that, and so it's a lot easier for communicating fluidly. This is Xavier. I've always just communicated with our football group. We always go as a group, and like when we go out to eat to order food, Riverside, you know, is our home place, so it's you know, we go to places frequently, and it's kind of like our home. They see, you know, our white jerseys, and they you know who we are. And then if they have a different color jersey, maybe a black jersey, it might be a different team. And so, but they know, you know, when we show up that we're ready for football and we're ready to represent this brotherhood and the family that we have built here, and then we can, take care of school and get back to the games and have that energy that we need after we've been to one of those restaurants.
We have another question. Yeah, I think it can see you on there.
I have two questions. The first question was for the author, and the second question is for the rest of the panel. So the first question, I'm from New York City. I grew up in New York. And so I've read the New York Times a lot, and I was wondering if you, how did you find out about CDSR, California School for the Deaf, Riverside? How did you find out about that while you were in New York and working for the New York Times?
So, there's a little secret about the New York Times, which I'll share with you today. The New York Times has more readers in California than we do in New York.
Really?
And we have bureaus and reporters like myself up and down California. We have a huge bureau in Los Angeles. We have a really big bureau in San Francisco. And so we have our ear to the ground, so to speak, to use a hearing expression. And when I received an email talking about the team, this was from the California Department of Education, and it was in November 2021, and the email said lots of little things, and by the way, there is this team, this football team at the California School for the Deaf in Riverside, and they happen to be having a pretty good year. As a matter of fact, they're undefeated. They need some help with their facilities, though. So if you want to donate to the team, you can write a check and put bleachers on the memo line of the check. And I saw this email and I thought, that's a pretty interesting story. And so it was the middle of the pandemic, and I was sick of being in my house. I was sick of, staring at my Zoom screen. And so I got in my car, and I drove right down to Riverside, and I arrived at the school, and everyone here who met me on that day, I think it was November 21st, or anyway, it was sometime around October, November 2021, they thought I was slightly insane. They thought I was quite strange because I arrived and we were all together in one of the dormitory rooms, and I said, I am so excited to be here. I love this story. I love what you guys are doing. And they looked at me like, who is this person and why is he here? And then eventually, I hope they accepted that I was going to be there every day, asking them questions every day. I stood on the sidelines during every practice. The left side of my face was tan. The right side of my face was not because of the afternoon sun. And I think eventually they accepted this intrusion into their lives. But it was all just because of this kind of random email that said, hey, check out this team.
And what was your question for the rest?
Wow, I am just in shock about reading that, and there's so much information. Thank you for sharing your story. Now, my second question, I would like to ask the entire panel. You guys played football previously. What position did you move around a different position? Were you on offense, defense? Did you just stay in one position? What was your experience like? So I started playing, this is Keith Adams, I started playing football when I was 10, and I I fell in love with it. I was kind of back and forth between positions. I didn't really stay in one position. And then when I was in high school, I didn't communicate until I was on the Gallaudet team, and the positions there were pretty limited.
Can I add to that, Keith? Keith is being modest. He was a superstar on his team in Stockton, California, and he played defensive end. So his job was to go after the quarterback or whoever's running towards him with the ball. And the coach was very proud, Keith's coach at the time, that Keith never jumped off sides. But actually, when I talked to the coach, he said, yeah, there was one time when he jumped off sides. And so I wanted to check that fact, and I talked with one of Keith's teammates. And the teammate said, yeah, the referees said that he jumped off sides, but we checked the tape. They just didn't think that someone could be that fast off of the ball. He did not jump off sides. So that was Keith Adams as a high school player. Everyone would come to the stadium in Stockton, and it was a big stadium, to watch him play.
Right. Kava said, so I started playing football junior high school, something like that, and I just fell in love with it. And I just was fascinated with football. Like he said, my neighbor kind of showed me football, and so my school team had one, so I decided to join, and I just fell in love with it. After then, I played linebacker and running back. Those were my two positions. And then senior year, I joined again, and I was coaching for the School for the Deaf, Maryland. And after that, I came here. This is Galvin. I've been, since I graduated in 2010, and I grew up playing, I was a quarterback all my life, and I was playing under these two as my coaches in my freshman year, and I work with them now. So I started as a kid. I was maybe 6 or 7, somewhere around there, playing flag football, and I played different offensive positions. And like my brother here, he's playing there, and I remember playing and complaining about the team, and I didn't really like the boys on that team, but anyways, so then, growing up, I didn't play football for a little bit after that, and then when I got to school, at School for the Deaf, I noticed, I kind of walked into it, and I was like, all right, well, we'll see. I've kind of had an iffy experience, but, with the flag football, but I really enjoyed it, so I go in and, oh my gosh, it was just, amazing with all the gear. And yeah, it was so heavy putting all that gear on. In 6th grade, I was playing flag football. You didn't have the same gear. So, and I was kind of small. So it wasn't, natural. And then I finally was able to kind of grow into it and improve with that. And I knew I needed to take it slow, and then it would come quickly after that. And so I started playing, and just, freshman year, and went the whole way. And I played offensive and defensive line, and then sophomore year, defensive line, and then, because I was fast. And so it was I was just so fast that I was always, they wanted to put me on the offensive line. And then I decided I could, play nose guard too, and transition between those positions. And I just really enjoyed it, and it was really important and competitive, and it just was fun to get on that offensive line and play. And we just kept winning and winning and winning, and we went all the way, and we were able to we were just able to keep powering through and get through everything. So my senior year, the whole time I was nose guard, because I felt like I was bigger and faster and more aggressive than I had been, and I was able to chase down the quarterbacks and just really put it all in, and that was really important for the team. And so the intelligence was pretty fun for that as well. And so I enjoyed nose guard. And this is Andrew. Really, I didn't really grow up playing sports. My first sport was playing football. And for me, playing here was competitive. That was my first time playing competitive, was like 7th or 8th grade. And I had the wrong shoes, and I just, I hadn't really played sports before, so yeah, I played 7th grade, and then I didn't really have a position until, after a few practices and after a few days, and so I noticed that my position was, improving for me, and so I started to get really into that position and into that zone. And so I was playing center, and I was making a few mistakes, but with more and more practice, I became the starter, and I just loved it. And so I really wanted to focus on doing that. And I didn't really play any other positions, just center was the only one. And that's the same position I've played since the start, and I never want to leave that position. I want to go the whole way. And so I'm a senior, so we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Oh, and then one last thing. I wanted to ask the 3 coaches. In high school, when you were playing, did you have dreams of becoming a coach, of becoming a high school coach? When I was in high school, this is Keith, no. I didn't know. I thought college, I knew I enjoyed coaching, but no. Kavah says, no, I don't think, I didn't think about being a coach at the time until I moved to MSD, so the school in Maryland. And then there was a team there that I just fell in love with, and I knew I wanted to be. I became a coach's assistant, and then from there on, never stopped. This is Galvin. Yeah, I knew I wanted to become a coach. I loved the competitive strategies, the development of different positions and pieces of that, and so I knew I wanted to set up teams and get that cohesive team work together and how things played out. And After I graduated Gallaudet, I looked at California School for the Deaf at Riverside, and I applied for the job there. Wow, okay. New York City doesn't have a football team like this. The first time I saw a football team was at Gallaudet, and I'm thrilled that California School for the Deaf Riverside, CSDR, has this team. So thank you.
Yes, we have another question over here.
I'm good. Help me. Hello. I wanted to ask the three coaches, 1, 2, 3. So like every time I watch football, I get excited about the plays, and then, were there any fights or arguments with the other coaches? I'm always trying to figure out what happened. I've seen that with the cheerlead. I was a cheerleader before myself, and I was like, oh, what happened? I missed it. So I always watch the replays to try to figure out what happened, and that's just so fun. But did you guys have any arguments or fights or discussions with other coaches? No? Keith says no. With other coaches? No, never. Arguments with the ref. I mean, arguments, disagreements, complaints, yeah, but with the coaches, no. With the coaches, no. Oh, right, with the referees, so like cheating or something. Right. Keith said with the referees, I mean, refs are humans. They don't see everything. They might miss a play or miss part of the, where the ball was or something, miss a holding and, just something dirty. But, I just have to remind the refs. And this is Kava. So I'm thinking the game, there was a game at the school, and after the game was finished, everyone was shaking hands in line as you're going through, and one of the coaches refused to shake my hand. And I just said, okay, whatever. And then later came over and shoulder checked me, and I was like, what is wrong with this guy? And so I, tried to figure out what was going on, but nothing happened, but he just seemed to be upset with me, and I guess, was mad that we beat that team. And Galvin, yes. So I remember football is very physical, right? It's tempers get risen really easily, and things are going to happen. But I know there was one where when a player hit me, and I this is the interpretation. I think it was while he was a player himself, and they were fighting a little bit, and then during practice, one of the other players was in a fight. They were fighting, and we had to have this discussion with the ref about what to do. And then, hey, you guys can't do that. You got to back off. And they got involved, and they paused the game, and the teams had to learn to control our emotions at that time and use code pink. So if you saw, something that happened, you would say code pink, and that would mean we would need to know to go straight to the sideline and, work it out from there. So that was a good way to control us. And Keith is add to that, really, if I see something happening like that, like a fake fight or something fighting happening, I know it's just drama, and they're just playing. And she's saying, yeah, that's good that, I know football is, it's a healthy hobby. So thank you very much.
We have time for a couple more questions right here.
Hello. Just a brief comment from Mr. Fuller first. I grew up in LA Orange, so you kind of grow accustomed to weird. So I probably would have reacted to you the same way. Growing up in LA Orange, I grew accustomed to weird, so I probably would have reacted to you the same way. anyhow, back to my actual question. How do you foresee the dynamics changing if you ever were to face another deaf team, such as like Maryland?
Well, how did they play another deaf?
I just want to clarify the question. I'm so sorry, the interpreter speaking. You're asking how the dynamics would have been changed if he would have gone to interview and follow a different school for the deaf, correct? Thank you so much.
This is Galvin. He was reporting, play-by-play with coaches, and so the coaches would sign to each other and sign to the team from the sideline. And with the hearing team, they don't know ASL, so they wouldn't be able to understand us. So we could just sign whatever we wanted. But if we're playing against another deaf school, they would know ASL, and so we would have to use the arm codes on the sleeves. And that way we could prevent them from seeing our approach and prevent them from seeing our signs as well. The game against Malibu. So Keith's saying, yes, 2004, Malibu High School came to us, and there was an interpreter watching us sign so that they could, do that. So we ended up having to use the arm sleeve at that game as well.
And I can add one of my favorite details, I think, in the entire book is when Keith's son, Trevin, the quarterback, was on his way to play the Fremont School, the California School for the Deaf in Fremont. So, there are two schools for the deaf in California. This is the southern one, and Fremont is the northern one. And I asked Trevin, I said, what are you thinking? I've never seen you guys play another deaf team. So how's it, how are you thinking about this in terms of strategy and everything? And he said, finally, we can trash talk.
Right.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead here and then here.
Okay. This is really neat. The coaches, I think, are great, giving a lot of life skills to the football players. Now, once you leave the school, is there a place where you can play football in college?
So,
Yes. College, either hearing, or there's the Deaf University in Washington, D.C., Gallaudet University. They can go to either Gallaudet or a mainstream hearing school as well.
do you have players playing at any of those schools right now?
Yes. Right now, I think we have 3 or 4 players at Gallaudet, on the Gallaudet team.
Including Keith's son, who's the quarterback for Gallaudet.
Question over here.
So this is a question for Thomas. One of the paragraphs in the book I noticed was talking about making a fuss of the alarms. Do you remember that? And so it says hashtag deaf problems. And so I need you to, come and replace the alarms now. My neighbor is, saying like, oh, one of the alarms is, so are you going to come replace that? It's called #DeafProblem.
So I will explain. Teresa Maxwell is my roommate when I was reporting the book. She has 3 bedrooms in her house, and one of them she very graciously offered that I use while I was reporting the book. And before arriving in Riverside, Teresa emailed me or texted me and said, look, it's very important that we investigate the smoke alarm situation. And I responded by saying, don't worry about it. I mean, yeah, we'll look into it. And she said, no, it is kind of important. And I said, okay. So I drove down to Riverside, and I spent my first night in the bedroom. And it was a horrible night because the smoke alarm was beeping the entire night. And Teresa said, I told you so. And of course, the smoke alarm's beeping didn't bother anyone in the house except for me. And so I went on to Amazon and I ordered smoke alarms that have both the light and the sound, so they would be appropriate both for hearing and deaf people. But I took away from that episode something that really touched me, which was Teresa was really thinking and empathizing with me about what I would experience and thinking, oh, there might be a sound coming from that smoke alarm. So thank you, Teresa, because that is a level of empathy that is really remarkable.
And we have time for one more question. I think someone over here had it.
Can I answer, Keith? Because I need to make sure, or I'll start the answer. That technology is advertised if you watch football games in an AT&T commercial, and they show the helmet, and they show that there's a screen inside the helmet, and that a deaf player can read the screen as they're playing. The person who is in that commercial for this device is Keith's son, Trevin Adams. So Keith knows a lot about this technology and can tell you more about it.
Sure. So AT&T created the first of its kind helmet, and that was $100,000, adding Wi-Fi and different the testings that they've done with it. So it wasn't approved. The NCAA was not approved of it yet for games. And then after the NCAA has finally been in talks with approval and allowing that, but it's a little bit distracting to have that right in your face. It would be better if it was like a full visor. Like there's like sunglasses, I think View, it's a different name, but a full visor, that would be better. But we're working on a different approach. So hopefully in the fall, we'll see kind of what happens. And I predict maybe 10 years from now, we'll get something with the full effects, but that I could type on the iPad or on the sideline as a coach, and it would be sent to the quarterback. The interpreter missed the question from the audience member, but Keith's saying it's a helmet with technology that is in front of your eyes, and if somebody's waving, you'd have to click and wait for it to move to get their attention. And so if the coach is, trying to, it'd be nice if we could add something so that they could see through it. so that I could get their attention. But sometimes you have to click it to then for it to pop up, and click it for it to go away as well. And so that's the goal. Kava saying, and to add to this, with the helmet, they have the audio in it for hearing people. So with deaf people, we have to, look over to the sideline and can communicate that way, and it could change quickly. And so you have to sign quickly as well to get those changes. So yeah, it's a lot going on.
Okay, we had one woman up here waiting patiently, and I would love to give it to her, and then I'll ask one follow-up, and then we will conclude.
I just really want to thank you. This book, it's obvious the inspiration it has brought to so many people, and understanding of what it's like to have a special challenge. I'd like to thank you on behalf of all hard of hearing, deaf people, but in addition, you are an amazing narrator. I have listened to many, many Audible books because my mother is blind, avid reader. Having books on tape, as they used to be called, just brought so much to her. So I really enjoy listening. The narrator makes all the difference in the world, especially, well, for me, what I really enjoy is when the author narrates his or her own book, because you get their perspective. I often will read a book with my eyes first and then listen to it. And it's so different how I read it and how the author reads it. Now, thank you so much for that. But I have a question for you. How did you become such a good narrator and public speaker? Or does it come to you naturally?
So I need to explain the question. So there's an audio book that, comes out with the book at the same time. And so hearing people can listen to the book spoken. And so they asked me to do the speaking for this audio version of the book. And I recognize that there's a certain irony in a book about the deaf community having an audio version. But, obviously there's a hearing audience out there that wants to listen to books. I don't know how to answer your very generous question. The question was, how did you know how to narrate your book? And it's the first time I've ever done it. I went into the studio and I sat down with a producer and a director, and I said, "Hey guys, this is the first time I'm doing this." And they said, "Don't worry, you'll do the first 3 chapters, and we're going to throw it away. And then then when you get the hang of it, we'll come back and do it again." So I did the first 3 chapters, and he said, "We don't have to throw those away." He said those were great. So I don't know. I just I just sat there and read the book. It's kind of easy when it's your own book, right? You know what's coming next. But thank you very much. It's a very generous. That's a very generous comment.
And for our last question, I'm just curious, what is everybody...
We have over there, we have one...
Oh, one more question. One more question.
Coming to the stage is a very famous deaf influencer, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Give these guys a hand. Wow. I used to play football myself my senior year. We were 0-8. 0-8. We lost. Congratulations, you guys. Okay, so I remember you were commenting about the book, and wow, reading the book and deaf-blind people being able to experience the book as well. Are you going to have someone sign the book next?
Will there be a signing book?
No, have the book done in ASL so that we'll have that accessibility as well. What do you think?
I need someone to sign it.
We're making a deal right here, I see.
Okay, I'll give you my business card. All right, we have a deal. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much. Okay, so the final question, I think we're all curious. So what's next for each of you?
You start.
Well, okay, I can start. I just returned to my day job, so I write stories every day about all the things that are going wrong with the world, and I wish I could be with these guys instead. And Keith, you can talk about possible coaching career across the country, maybe. I don't know if you want to discuss that.
Well, I'm retiring from football. I retired in last November, but I might be coaching again. Where I'm looking at other opportunities, possibly at Gallaudet University, coaching football. Their coach stepped out last year, so they've been recruiting me, and everybody's been asking me. So I'll fly to Gallaudet next week and have a chat with their AD and see what they offer. So we'll see what opportunities are. Maybe I'll stay with Riverside. We'll see. Me? Okay. Xavier here. Let's see. This is my final year, so I'm a senior. So yeah. I'm just gonna miss all the memories and the family and everything that we've had so far. It's just gone by really fast, and as a senior, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, I just miss those memories, but I'll still play football and still play competitive football in the spring. And then, I'll keep going to the gym. And when I graduate, I really want to go to Gallaudet, but I've decided to wait and just see what happens, and get some personal things figured out. This is Andrew. Like I said, I'm a senior, so I'll have, my attitude's a little bit better than his. I'm going to miss Xavier and all of, working with Xavier and everything. So he's just really helped me become better and better. And so just my gratitude never stops for him. And, we'll still be in the same area, and so we'll still be able to continue. And yesterday, and today I've seen my friends, and so today's an off day, but we'll just see each other and, just see what happens.
Before you answer, Kave, I want to preface this by saying that after you won the championship, you told me that you were going to buy a Harley Davidson and you were going to drive off into the California desert. So I want to know, has that happened yet?
Okay. Yes, I'm disappointed to say that, I was traveling, or I was planning to travel on my motorcycle, but after that I had shoulder surgery. And so maybe when I retire, other things were coming up. So I had shoulder surgery, so that's been put off for a bit. So I haven't been able to do that yet. I've been focusing on other interests with the community and other things I've been involved in. So that interest in the motorcycle has decreased a little bit, but maybe someday in the future. We'll see what happens. And this is Galvin. My plan for the future is next year I want to continue with the Riverside football team, and in the fall, I know I still have many players here for this coming season, so we're just going to keep practicing, get that motivation going, and see what comes for the tournaments and camps in the spring and summer, and then maybe have 4th championship in the fall.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I am so thrilled you were all able to celebrate the kickoff of Riverside Reads with us. Before you all head over to get your books, I know some of you already have them, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who made today possible, including the Riverside Reads team, including Jessica Herdina, our Assistant Library Director, Karen Flores, Alexis Reboledo, Annalisa Johnson, and Genesis Negrete Farfan, and Nancy Walker. Additionally, a huge thank you to everybody up here on the panel and CSDR for being just an amazing partner as we've gone through this. We're just so grateful to all that you have done to help us celebrate your team. And thank you, Thomas Fuller, for joining us today, for sharing the world of deaf culture with us, and for sharing with the entire world how wonderful Riverside is. Thank you all. Okay, if we can wait a moment as Thomas Fuller goes towards the back to do our book signing before we bombard him with everybody getting their book signed. Thank you. You want to take a picture?
And a picture. Hold for a picture,
Oh,
please.
let them take a picture and then I'll come over. Are you good with me walking?
No, get in.